In early 2017, Mosul was one of the most contested urban battlefields in the world. Held by ISIS since 2014, the city had been turned into a fortress, fortified with tunnels, improvised explosives, sniper nests, and shielded by thousands of civilians. The task of retaking it fell to the Iraqi military, but they were not alone. Supporting them were American Special Operations Forces, including Navy SEAL Team 7. These operators were deployed to work alongside Iraq's Elite Counter-Terrorism Service, CTS, not to lead the fight, but to enable it. They brought with them years of combat experience and deep expertise in close quarters and urban warfare. The SEALs didn't move in with tanks or massive airstrikes. Their power came from precision, patience, and partnership. Operating in small mobile teams, SEAL Team 7's mission was clear: advise, assist, and accompany. In Mosul's complex terrain, that meant building trust with Iraqi units, coordinating intelligence, and supporting critical operations. One of their key early contributions was in planning and route selection. Before any building was entered, SEALs used overhead drone feeds, human intelligence, and terrain familiarity to advise on movement and tactics. In several cases, they prevented teams from walking into ambushes or IEDs simply by spotting subtle signs others missed. But they didn't just sit in the back. During raids, SEALs provided overwatch, breaching expertise, and, if needed, joined room-clearing operations. They knew when to act and when to let the Iraqis lead, always focused on enabling success without taking over. One early mission stands out. An Iraqi team was tasked with clearing a suspected enemy command center in a dense residential block. The SEALs helped plan the approach and inserted quietly with the unit at night. Movement was slow and disciplined. Just before entry, gunfire erupted from the upper floors. CTS was pinned. The SEALs responded instantly. Two broke off to provide covering fire while the others guided Iraqi elements around the side. Instead of storming the front, they breached from a secondary structure, avoiding what turned out to be a rigged entry. Inside, the team recovered comms gear, ISIS documents, and a list of defensive positions throughout the neighborhood. This wasn't just luck, it was discipline, execution, and mutual trust. On another occasion, SEAL Team 7 joined CTS in isolating a suspected weapons cache located in a crumbling apartment building. The structure had been flagged due to unusual foot traffic at night and unlicensed power draw, subtle indicators something was off. The SEALs approached from a side alley, taking position 2 floors above the target, while CTS prepared to enter. Seconds before breach, a secondary observer spotted movement on the roof. An ISIS fighter with an RPG was preparing to fire. A warning was called in, a suppressed shot neutralized the threat, and the breach proceeded. Inside, crates of homemade explosives, tools, and a floor map showing fallback tunnels in the district. That intel stopped 3 VBIDs from being deployed the following week. There were no shortcuts in this environment. The SEALs often operated without backup, relying instead on coordination, precision, and timing. Every mission required full focus. Fatigue was constant, communication was critical, and in the maze of broken buildings and narrow alleys, mistakes could be fatal. SEAL Team 7 was not just providing firepower, they were building confidence. For the Iraqi soldiers moving into Mosul's most dangerous zones, the presence of SEALs often meant the difference between hesitation and execution. They trusted that if things went wrong, someone had their back. When communications broke down, SEALs bridged the gap. When CTS needed to retask mid-operation, SEALs adapted. Their value wasn't in overwhelming force, but in operational fluency, in knowing what to do when plans fell apart. That expertise was earned, not granted. Every team member carried medical gear, redundant comms, and the ability to lead if needed. They rotated roles constantly. One day providing overwatch, the next day planning a joint raid. Everyone was sharp. Everyone was trusted. Perhaps the most powerful element of their work was what they avoided: unnecessary violence. In dozens of operations, SEALs upheld strict rules of engagement. They called off strikes when civilians were near. They pushed back on plans that felt rushed. And they reminded everyone by example that winning a fight doesn't always mean pulling a trigger. What mattered was the mission: getting the job done, making it home, and ensuring that the Iraqis they served alongside grew stronger with every fight. And as the city tightened, the pressure only grew, but so did their impact. By the time March 2017 arrived, the fight for Mosul had become an all-out close-quarters war. There were no front lines anymore. What looked secure at sunrise could become hostile by nightfall. ISIS fighters had buried themselves inside the west of the city, using civilians as cover, wiring buildings with traps, and launching attacks from tunnels no wider than crawl spaces. This was where SEAL Team 7 went to work. Still embedded with Iraq's elite counter-terrorism service, SEAL Team 7 found themselves in a fight unlike anything most modern forces trained for. It wasn't about dominating terrain. It was about surviving block by block with clarity, calm, and zero margin for error. In one incident, a joint patrol passed by a school that had been flagged as inactive. Inside were 6 civilians and one armed ISIS spotter hiding among them. SEALs spotted the man's boot print just outside a sealed window, the same sole pattern seen near IED setups the previous week. They didn't fire, they waited and confirmed the man's identity through a handheld drone. When he moved to radio a nearby cell, SEALs intervened. Fast, non-lethal takedown. No shots fired. Civilians unhurt. Intelligence gathered. That's how they operated, 1 second away from a gunfight and still calm enough to pause. ISIS began using false walls, pressure plates, even booby-trapped corpses to slow down advancing forces. In one operation, SEAL Team 7 and CTS were clearing a row of 3 buildings when the lead Iraqi breacher tripped a tripwire inside a stairwell. It didn't detonate, but it was a wake-up call. The structure was rigged. SEALs stepped in. Instead of continuing the clear, they paused the mission entirely. Within 20 minutes, they coordinated a route scan using mini-drone footage from above, then guided an EOD unit through a new rear entry. Inside, 2 rooms were wired with anti-personnel devices. The explosives were disarmed, and in one closet, they found a rigged vest ready to be worn. They had the ability to shape engagements, to stop bad calls before they happened, and to read a situation when others were overloaded. It could have ended differently, but it didn't, because no one rushed. One night, during a coordinated strike on a suspected bomb-making cell, a young Iraqi soldier hesitated at the breach point. He knew what was likely behind the door. A trigger man, maybe 2. A SEAL stepped beside him, gave a short nod, and took the lead. They entered fast, cleared tight, and made it out with 2 detainees. 1 cache of explosives and no friendly losses. Afterward, the Iraqi turned and said just one word: shukran. That trust? It's built under fire, and it doesn't happen by accident. By April, Mosul was no less dangerous, but it was better understood. Thanks in large part to the work of quiet professionals like SEAL Team 7, Iraqi forces had better intelligence, tighter tactics, and more confidence with each advance. And they'd need it because the hardest part, the old city, still waited ahead. Where alleyways were barely wide enough for 2 men to walk, where snipers hid behind curtains, and where even the shadows weren't safe, the old city was where the line between warfighter and civilian disappeared. ISIS had buried command nodes beneath homes, hidden fighters in mosques, and turned historic streets into killing lanes. They used children to move messages, booby-trapped corpses, and makeshift tunnel escapes. Here, no decision was simple. SEALs coordinated with CTS and coalition planners to map routes, mark known IED zones, and develop protocols for deconfliction when drone and ground units shared the same grid. One operation near Al Farouk Street captured it all. Intel from a previous raid had revealed a mid-level ISIS commander operating out of a 3-building compound, hidden among civilian homes. The risk of collateral damage was high, but the target mattered. He was coordinating night ambushes and controlling drone-dropped grenades from rooftops. The plan: move in on foot before sunrise. CTS would lead. SEAL Team 7 would provide silent overwatch, manage air assets, and prepare contingencies. The movement was flawless. They reached the staging point without detection, but just before breach, a sentry exited the side door. He spotted the team and ran. SEALs acted instantly. One operator cut him off in the alley and brought him down without a shot fired. They moved in fast. Inside, resistance was light. 2 fighters, both armed. 1 surrendered. In the corner of the room, encrypted phones, tactical maps, and a stash of cash marked for distribution. No casualties, no civilians harmed. Target captured alive. But not every mission went that smoothly. On another raid, CTS encountered a false wall concealing an entrance to a tunnel network beneath a school. The breach team entered and was immediately separated. Comms failed inside the tunnel. For over 90 minutes, it was chaos. SEAL Team 7 managed to relay drone imagery, plot emergency extraction routes, and guide a recovery unit into place. The SEALs didn't panic. They solved problems, because that's what they're trained to do. In one final offensive, into the Al-Nuri Mosque sector, where ISIS had declared its caliphate in 2014, CTS prepared to breach a suspected communications center. SEAL Team 7 was requested to help coordinate drone coverage and rapid response. The building was flagged for demolition traps. SEALs helped confirm structural weaknesses via drone and thermal scan. They marked breach points, advised alternative entry through a connecting courtyard, and managed a fallback plan. During entry, one of the Iraqi operators tripped a plate. The hallway collapsed. 2 men were injured. SEAL medics moved in immediately, stabilized them, and called in CASEVAC. Meanwhile, the rest of the team cleared the building, located 3 enemy fighters, and recovered comms gear linked to ISIS units in Syria. By July 2017, Mosul was nearly taken. The last enemy fighters were boxed into the area around Al-Maidan and the western bank of the Tigris. SEALs had rotated through over 24 missions by then. Most never recorded, most never shared. When the final announcement came, Mosul was liberated. There were no cameras on SEAL Team 7, no statements, no ceremony. That's how Mosul was reclaimed, and that's how SEAL Team 7 will be remembered there.